Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by and welcome to part 3 of the first round of the project plant updates. More to follow, obviously. It's a 4-part series, and the set of 4 parts will take place every couple of months so we can monitor the progress. Progress this time of year, not so much. You know, surviving the winter's good, but you know, we've got the growing season coming up, so we should see some progress. And this is mainly, well, it's Cattleyas and Tolumnias basically, so and includes a rescue, so it's not all good stuff, not all good news. So let's get going with the first one. Okay, Brassavola Little Stars, a relatively recent acquisition towards the end of last year, so I've not had this one long. Decided to mount it. It didn't have very good roots, but there were some roots, mainly around the back of the plant, so they're in behind the moss, we can't really see them. It got damaged basically, a couple of the growing points got damaged in transport, so it did arrive slightly damaged. It's also had some leaves chopped. They don't show up so much because these are narrow leaves anyway, but yeah, that's what it looked like back then. And I was looking forward to the possibility of some spikes. It looked like there was some starting. So as we get to it now, some of the spikes actually developed. We've got a couple of blooms and a few more spikes with some buds to come. Obviously first time bloomer for me. There's signs of spikes on this where it has bloomed before, but yeah, I'm quite pleased with the slow progress it's doing. These are the 2 damage points. They were both damaged in transport, so they just got snipped off and sealed with cinnamon, but they're still a growing point. They have produced some new roots and may still branch out sideways from those growing points. There's several others, one up to the right at the back there, and one sort of centre shot. Both of those are growing points capable of new growths. No sign of any yet round this side of the plant, but it's winter time. You know, these do like to be warm, and it's not very warm in my place in the winter time. So some of these growing points should start pushing soon. There's only one new growth on the whole plant at the moment. That's right round the back there, that little narrow one, just there. So that's the only new growth it's actually pushed out so far. But it's managed to produce some spikes. We've got some blooms, and we do have some reasonable roots starting. It's not going mad yet, but at least it's getting off the ground. And it's winter growth at the end of the day. I wasn't expecting the earth from this. However, once we get into the growing season with the warmer days and nights and the longer days, I should see some good progress on this. Okay, on to this one then. This is the one with the name about 8 foot long. There you go. Cattleya, Shinfong, Little Sun, Young Min, Golden Boy. Get your head round that lot then. This did something rather odd. It pushed out quite a strong new growth with a sheath. That's dead centre in the shot now. You can see the sheath between the 2 leaves there. But it produced some other very strange growths. Obviously don't show on a still, but yeah, it had grown some roots once it was potted up in there. So, you know, coming on, I would say, not doing bad, but not expecting the earth during the winter, obviously. But nonetheless, that sheath pushed on and has now bloomed. A couple of leaves gone missing there, went yellow and fell off. There's another one going to come off shortly, I suspect. But this is the sort of front of the plant where the strong new growth was, that's just opening up its blooms now. And the weird bit is going on round the other side of the plant. It produced these 2 tiny little pseudobulbs. They both have sheaths, and blow me, they've both got buds. So, very strange behaviour on this one. But nonetheless, despite those 2 pseudobulbs being quite small, it looks like they're going to bloom, and they do provide leads for future growths. So we should get some new growth out that side of the plant as well. So that was unexpected behaviour, shall we say. Yeah, very strange. I've never seen a Cattleya do that before. But nonetheless, we do have a growing pair of places round the back of the plant and round the front of the plant. I mean, the progress on this plant is reasonably obvious, pushing towards what is now the largest plumpest bulb it's ever had, which has produced blooms. These are very attractive blooms, quite honestly. They're a nice medium orange, I would say, and they do have a really deep red in the lip. So nice to see those blooms. That's not its first set of blooms for me, but nice to see them again. So looking good. And the next one on the list, Laelia purpurata, is a why won't you bloom. It's variety atropurpurea. This was got at Malvern. Bit of a risk from the Equigenera company, and the only reason I got it was there were signs of some new growths and the possibility of some new roots. Some nubbins were showing. I wouldn't normally get a plant of this size from them, but anyway, I mean, it's grown on quite nicely. It's produced a hell of a root system that's going to be great fun one day when I have to get that out of the pot, which won't be just yet. But yeah, not a non-bloomer. I think I've finally found out why, but basically we had a serious accident with this plant not too long ago. Although that plant is wired in the pot, it was insufficiently wired to keep it upright, and it fell over sideways and kicked all its media out. But the two new growths have pushed on quite nicely. They are at a slightly strange angle now because the pot's been stood upright and rewired basically to hold it dead still and dead upright. But basically it just keeled over. You know, it wasn't sufficiently tied in, so a little bit of an accident. But it did give me a chance to look at the root system, which wasn't that good. So it hasn't taken very kindly to something. So it's not the best of root systems. I think this had to be taken out of the pot a while back because it was all growing over the top of the pot and wouldn't stand up. So it was moved back into the same pot, and it looks like some of the roots have decided to keel over. But with two strong new growths pushing up, a new root system is going to be formed underneath both of those in the not too distant future, and it's nice and firm in its pot now. And I think I've worked out why it hasn't bloomed on the last two growths. It's simply a time of year thing, slightly seasonal, and it's basically culture. The new growths, these two new growths, are pushing out at just the right time. They should complete their growth towards the end of summer. This is a big plant, that's a lot of growth in one season, but at least they've started. They've now got the whole growing season to fulfill their role. The sheaths should form, and then it needs a rest. It needs to be slowed right down, and then later, after a bit of a rest, the buds should push out through the sheaths. So that's what's supposed to happen. And now that I know that, perhaps I can actually get it to happen, and we'll actually get some flipping blooms on it. I've had it a while now, still not bloomed. Right, this is the Rescue Cattleya hybrid. I chose the worst of the two. There are two plants of this one, and I chose the worst one on the grounds that, you know, if I get any progress on this, I'll be over the moon. This is what it looked like then. It's got two leaves hanging out to the left that are still just about green. They're hanging on, and its latest growth is that silly little thing poking up in the middle. That's the best it's done so far. And looking at it now, it hasn't really changed much. There's no new signs of life. These two leaves are still hanging in there, and they're green enough to be able to photosynthesize, so it's capable of sort of feeding itself. But that little growth, that's all it's got, and it's done nothing. There's no sign of life. There's no eyes moving, no new roots, absolutely nothing on this plant. The only reason I'm keeping these two pieces is the blooms, quite honestly. They are pretty spectacular, and I'm hoping one day, it certainly won't be this year, but possibly the next growing season, we might actually get one of these two to produce a bud or two. But yeah, this really is a poor show. But at least it has got some roots now, and it has produced a new growth, albeit a poor one. A poor new growth is better than no new growth at all. But again, I'm hoping with the longer days and a bit more warmth that it will do something. It needs to push up another new growth, reasonable size, like its sister, and get some new roots going, and then maybe it'll pull on. Right, on to the Tolumnias. This is my only Tolumnia species, urophylla. Has lovely yellow blooms on. It's renowned for having the most ridiculous long spikes compared to the size of the plant. You know, you have the plant in one place in the grow room, and the blooms are in a totally different bit. They look like they're part of another plant. They're so far away. But it's a nice looking plant. It's grown a good root system in the past, and not actually doing much at this point in time. Just hoping for some spikes. And hey presto, look what Hope did. Got two nice spikes on this, and I'm well pleased to get two at roughly the same time, because although one's pushing on a bit faster than the other one started before it, they're close enough together to hopefully be in bloom at the same time. And I can't for the life of me remember how long it takes from the spike starting to actually getting to the point where some blooms open. But those spikes have got some growing to do yet. There's no sign of any buds on them, not yet. I've got one little new growth coming out at the back, and several other growths that are pushing on well enough to get confused with the more mature fans. So it's difficult to see which are the new growths on this one. But two of them have spikes coming out, so that'll do. Yeah, it's a nice looking plant. It grows quite nicely for me. And yeah, roots all over this mount, literally. Some in the moss, but very well attached. It's not tied on or anything. It's doing its own thing, and it is very firmly attached. So it's one of my nicer Tolumnias. Yeah, I really do like that one. So coming on nicely, and some blooms to follow. And the other Tolumnia, the last plant for this set, this was one of the 5 new ones that I got at the Christmas do from a friend. And all 5 did not have good root systems, but they varied with their root systems. This little plant does have a new growth starting, and basically the name was a commercial name of some sort, Mo04. So it's not, I'm sure it's not his proper hybrid name. But yeah, it's got some old roots, mounted and just waiting for progress, basically. And the progress on this one is that little new growth has grown a little bit, not a lot. Still no sign of new roots, but it's pushed up a spike and the blooms are just opening. So yeah, that's progress. The progress I really want is a new root system to start, because although it's got some older roots, it's going to have trouble supporting itself when the weather gets warmer if it doesn't get some new roots. It is slightly desiccated, the older part. If you have a look at the older fan, those 2 leaves on the right, you can see there's some ribbing on there. But the old root system is good enough to keep it hydrated this time of year. It's going to struggle when we start getting the longer days with the warmer nights. But that will be down to me to just water it more often until it gets a new root system. But yeah, quite pleased with that. Not too bad at all. Okay, so that's part 3 of the project plant updates, first round, and only part 4 to go now. But I'll leave a gap before part 4 is going to be next week sometime, I suspect. I won't have enough time over the weekend, and that will complete that set. And then the following set of the 4-part series is probably going to be end of April, something like that, I suspect. I don't want to do them too frequently, and I'd like to do them somewhere around 2 monthly intervals. So that's the objective. I may change my mind, who knows. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by.